Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie, and I have Wiem on camera with me this afternoon. And once again demonstrating my amazing ability to get the car that seems to be winning with the signal-wise, sort of, kind of. Brent may or may not be out later. Wendy is currently visiting the doctors. They are treating her for the technological gremlins that appear to have attacked Wendy starting sometime this morning and continuing onwards. Nevertheless, we are coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa game reserves in the Sabi Sands, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And if you want to send through your questions or your comments, you can do that as well. And please don't be nervous, any new viewers, to ask questions that you think might already have been asked. I promise you, we do not mind. In fact, we love questions from across the world. So send those through on hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv. We also have Louise and Jerry in final control and our very talented tech team currently working on sorting out Wendy's current issues. Now, Wiem suggested to me at the start of drive, since we're going to be talking for a while, that perhaps we wanted to maybe theme this drive in the Dr. Zeus style. Now, I'm not sure that I have any such talents in that department. I certainly don't think I do. I know that James could do it. Now, I think that asking for a cat in a hat might be a little bit too far, stretched too far, but a cat that is flat might be quite nice. Flat leopard, flat lion. Wait for it, wait for it. Here's the kicker to this conversation. Since Rusty's signal seems to be endlessly improved, oh, the places we'll go on the back of Rusty. We surprised everybody this morning by going all the way to the eastern edge of our boundary and making it there in one piece. But if we do disappear temporarily from your screens, please bear with us. I'm sure we will be back up and running very shortly. One of those joys about bringing you a safari live from the bush. Sometimes these things just happen. And on talking about flat cats and updates about flat cats, the Birmingham boys, or at least two of the Birmingham boys, wandered through Djuma early this morning, and they went straight down Twin Dams, right across our southern boundary, and promptly sat down about 100 meters to the south of us, just where we can't see them. The other two of them are with 3 Styx females a little bit further to the west of that, around Hoffman's, as well as Tingana, apparently. Tingana's made an appearance on Hoffman's as well. So fingers crossed this afternoon, once it gets a little bit cooler, he might be up and wandering about. I think that's sort of my plan for this afternoon, is to head across towards Arathusa and see whether there's any chance that he might decide to pop out there. In the meantime, though, we have some buffalo. Welcome to a Nightcore fan, who is a brand new viewer, has found us for the very first time and says that this is so cool. There you go, Nightcore fan, for your first journey on our live safaris. One of the big 5 within 5 minutes of the show, and not just one of the big 5, but one of the big 5 bearing one of the rarer bird species. I'm pretty sure on the shoulder of the standing buffalo, if you look very carefully, you will see a yellow-billed oxpecker. Now, I say one of the rarer bird species. It is a bird species that has been brought back from the brink of extinction, at least in this particular area, and reintroduced by humans in a conscientious conservation effort. And there we go. How better to spend your Sunday afternoon but a day at the mud spa around Chele Pan. Thank you, John. I'm glad that you can think of no better way to be spending the next 3 hours. Hopefully we can keep things entertaining and thrilling. Now, there was actually an elephant on quarantine that I'm now contemplating going to visit. There's a male bull elephant on quarantine. Hopefully he is still there. I left him for Brent, since I knew that Brent could only really circle quarantine in very large circles. But since that doesn't appear to be possible, I'll consider going back in his direction at some point during the drive. He actually paid us a visit today. Whilst sitting watching a movie on bed, I looked in the reflection of the door. Now, Inge's fence is currently being repaired, and he was sort of really carefully contemplating our swimming pool of where we live, and then decided he actually wasn't that interested in it and wandered off into the bushes. So just one of those lovely things about living out here amongst these incredible animals. One buffalo has a healing injury. No flies. This is the one thing about stopping for buffalo, is their entourage of biting flies. Kitty Kitty Bang Bang has said, one bird, two bird, bluebird, redbird, thanks, on the theme of our Dr. Seuss themed. Sorry, redbird, bluebird. Well, we've got a bird with a red bill currently picking through the buffalo's fur. I wonder if one of these gentlemen is the one with the hole in his shoulder. I think it is. It's the one lying down at the back on the right. Where that oxpecker is digging is a perfect demonstration of how useful these little birds can be and also how harmful they can be. So the bird pecking around his ear is doing him a huge service by removing the itchy ticks and parasites that have made themselves at home in his fur. The bird sitting on his shoulder, and I'll reposition so that you can get a look at it. It is quite gory for those of you who are uncomfortable with blood and anything like that. But essentially, oxpeckers, whilst they feed on ticks, also feed on blood and mucus, which means that as soon as a buffalo or a giraffe or an impala or anything like that gets an injury, they immediately start to worry at it. And it's just one of those things where they keep that particular injury open far longer than it would be if it were healing naturally. So an interesting example of mutualism for the oxpecker when they're doing good, and actually almost parasitism on the other side of the coin. It's quite an unusual example. I can't think of another relationship out here that works in quite the same way. I'm not sure if you guys can. Maybe you can think of something that can both harm the organism, or at least one of the organisms, or help it, depending on which way it works, but will always help out one of the organisms in that symbiotic relationship. Just a question, I can't think of one. I'll show you sort of roughly what I mean. Hello, buffaloes. Don't mind me, please. John has said the only thing missing from the scene is a picnic basket, since we've got our buffalo relaxing here. And of course they've got their homemade picnic baskets in the form of their first stomach, first out of 4. And they can sit here and ruminate on food that they've already eaten. We, on the other hand, funnily enough, John, it's so strange that you should mention that. And here's his rather uncomfortable shoulder injury. If we just have a look a little bit at that one at the back lying in the water, you can see what I mean. Sorry, John, I'll get back to you in one moment. Oof, not comfortable at all. They've just made it deeper and deeper and deeper since I first noticed this buffalo. You almost want to beg them to stop and leave him alone. Ooh, get the shivers just thinking about that beak in there. There's a juvenile sitting on his head with a black beak. And there you can see, as I said, utilizing his own personal picnic basket as a ruminant, coughing up grass balls, balls of cud, and chewing on them. He's also appeared to have attempted to put some decorations on top of his horns, not very well. Obviously not the most fashion-conscious buffalo, but he has some grassroots-style decoration. It looks as though he's trying to go for that hairstyle with the fringe over one eye, but just hasn't quite managed. Shame, Buffalo. I feel for you. It's amazing that he doesn't swish back and move that oxpecker. He definitely would be capable of doing that. But yes, all that is missing from this tranquil scene is a picnic basket. Hello, Buffalo. You're looking at me very carefully. Is the red-billed oxpeckers. Funnily enough, John, VM and I have actually packed ourselves hamburgers before the start of drive that are wrapped in tin foil and stored in my box. Now, that was, of course, before we realized that we might not actually have time to eat them, short of having a picnic on the live safari. This was when we still thought that Brent might be going out and that, oh, look at that, stretching out those primary feathers. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that's going to be too possible. We shall see. Now, you saw that stretch out of the tail feathers that the oxpecker just did. And that is also an interesting aspect of the way in which oxpeckers are adapted for the lifestyle that they need. Their tail feathers are extra stiff when compared to those of other birds, which means that when they sit horizontal, or what would the word be, vertically actually, on an animal's coat, they don't have to rely completely on the zygodactyl feet that they have. So they're able to move one toe either to the front or to the back. So they can either have 3 toes front, 1 toe back, or 2 toes front, 2 toes back. But they can also, yes, hello. Good afternoon. I feel very much sort of, this is, I suppose, how the animals must feel. I feel very much under scrutiny right now. Slightly narrowed eyes glancing at me is the yellow-billed. You can see how much thicker the yellow-billed oxpecker is around the bill. While we watch this gentleman chewing, and in Indiana, no, buffaloes don't generally cough up fur balls. It's more that they produce grass balls from their first stomach. I've never heard of a buffalo coughing up fur balls. I could actually be mistaken about that, but I don't think so. It's actually the fact that as a ruminant, just like a cow, they chew their food twice. First time when they eat it and swallow it, and then the second time when they regurgitate it and chomp on it like they're doing now. See the oxpeckers, oh, yellow-billed oxpecker popping up and ducking down and up. And this is so wonderful too, that we've had now regular sightings of these yellow-billed oxpeckers. At one point, nearly completely gone from this particular area. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. It's a nice way to start off our sunset safari. It's okay, boy. I would just like to go around you, if that's all right. And Gracie, who is one of our 8-year-old viewers, Gracie was just wondering, could an elephant get inside our swimming pool, and could we ever go swimming with them? And Gracie, unfortunately, as wonderful as it would be to go swimming with our elephants, I don't think they'd appreciate it very much. Remember, they're actually quite shy in their own way, and they don't really like to be seen sharing a swimming pool with other species. Gracie, you've seen how when elephants come down to drink, a lot of the time they chase the other animals away first. And I think maybe sometimes they get a bit embarrassed at sharing public facilities like the public dams. So no, we probably couldn't go swimming with our elephants out there. And they also, unfortunately, they can't get into our swimming pool, which is a good thing, because I'm not sure that once they were in, they could actually get out. But there's a big wooden deck all the way around our pool. So we did actually have an elephant try and stand on it to go and have a drink at the pool, and unfortunately he broke the deck. He bent it right down, and I think he got a fright and ran away. So no, Gracie, we don't want to be sharing our swimming pool with the Ellies. Luckily, after all of the rain, there's lots of places for them to go if they want to swim. Just yesterday we saw elephants swimming in a puddle. And can you believe it? To get a leaf out of Scott's book, out and about, let's find out what his plans are for the afternoon.
So, hi and welcome to a slightly belated sunset safari for Jeandre and myself. I'm Brent Leo Smith, and hopefully we've got the gremlins stick out and they've been beaten off for now. And we're going to go ahead into the western sectors of the reserve to see what we can find. So we did have quite the morning of flowers, and unfortunately I haven't been able to yet identify two of those mysterious flowers. I will keep at it. And that little, I think it's a polygallon family. That is the purple one from the sunrise safari, and the white one was a saffron. But we will try identify the missing purple flower. So a huge welcome to Thomas Meadows, and welcome to the SafariLIVE family, Thomas. Thomas says he's going to a game reserve this week, and this is just like a build-up for it. Well, Thomas, let me know which game reserve you're going to, if it's in South, East, or Central Africa. See if I've got some tips for you to utilize while you're out in the game reserve. And remember, you obviously know how to send a question, but for those who don't, it's questions@wildearth.tv via email, or use the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. So the Nkahuma ladies have been doing a bit of dancing back and forth between us and the western sectors, and I am hoping that this evening they're going to dance back to the east. For those who are not sure what the Nkahuma ladies are, it is our most seen resident pride of lions. 5 lionesses. There have been only 4 together for a while. One of them was off mating with a Birmingham male lion, but they're all, I'm pretty sure all 5 reconnected last night and are together. So their tracks all around this western section of the reserve. They have crossed just out of our traverse area, but I'm hoping they take a little bumble back towards us. And while we look for lions, there's lots of fascinating things to see. But he's going to be too quick for us, that one. There was a bird that escaped us, but Jamie's got one that's static in a tree.
This bird actually keeps escaping me as well, to be completely honest. This is one of the first times I've managed to get this harrier hawk on camera on this particular road along Vulture's Nest, right next to where its nest sits in the Balanites tree. And look at that, an African harrier hawk, or a gymnogene. It happens to be one of my favorite raptors, although I couldn't really tell you why. It's got a fairly notorious reputation. They are specialized nest raiders, so they raid the nest of other birds. They've got double-jointed legs, and I think it's the amazing way in which they hang upside down in order to do so, with those double-jointed legs that can lean back. But I'm not sure what it is about them that I like so much. Definitely isn't their habit of nest raiding, I can promise you that. I think it's more the ability, the fact that they blush, their faces blush from yellow to bright red when they get angry, and as well as the fact that no matter where they find themselves, and I'm actually surprised, this is one of the reasons why we're getting to view this particular individual, they usually find themselves being mobbed and chased by other bird species such as drongos or rollers, even if they're not actually in the mood to go and raid the nests themselves. So a gymnogene, or an African harrier hawk. Not the best view, obviously, because he's sitting right into the sun, but this particular individual bird on this road has always been unbelievably skittish. We've hardly ever got to see it in this area, and I don't know why that is. Our Wahlberg eagles, for example, are quite comfortable with us sitting watching them at a very close distance. Obviously, this bird just has a slightly different understanding of the way in which the vehicles work. I'll just go forward a little bit. We'll go and investigate its nest. just around the corner at the African harrier hawk's nest. Now, I don't think that this year it's been successful in raising a chick. I don't know why that has been, but it obviously has its reasons. But that messy bundle of sticks, if you look up carefully in the main fork of the tree, you can see that nest that I'm talking about. That is the African harrier hawk's nest, demonstrating that general raptor tendency to create very messy, almost fragile-looking nesting areas. They've chosen such a beautiful spot, one of my favorite trees. And yet this year have not been successful, and neither have the Wahlbergs. I don't know why it is that that has been the case with the birds of prey this year. I almost feel as though the drought would have made things easier rather than more difficult for them. Look at this beautiful tree. It's so picturesque. The textbooks describe these torchwoods or greenthorns as having deeply fluted trunks. So they've got those deep flutes in them. In other words, the waves and the curves in the bark. And I think that's such a beautiful way of describing it. Deeply fluted, like a champagne flute. It is beautiful. A bird specialized in nest raiding, and yet this year has not been successful with its own nest. Now, Yvonne, who is watching in Sweden, said hello to the whole crew. Now, Yvonne is saying hello for their spring equinox day. And today, of course, being our autumn equinox. Well, it's wonderful to have you and a very warm welcome, Yvonne. Now, from what I understand in Sweden, and I'll see how the drive goes before we go straight down this route, but I've had quite a few Swedish guests in my life, and one of them actually taught me, a couple of them have actually taught me the song that is sung in Sweden in order to celebrate not the spring equinox, but the midsummer moment where everybody dances around a pole and sings a song about a frog that has no ears and no eyes, no ears and no tail, and goes kuakaka. Now, if the drive doesn't yield anything in the way of overexcitement, I might be persuaded to go into a little bit more depth about the Swedish frog song. That's how I know it. No offense meant if I get it completely wrong. But this particular volunteer, when he left, it was a volunteer at the place I was working at, when he left, he wrote out every line of that particular song for me, and then very kindly sent me a video of that particular midsummer celebration in Sweden. So we'll look for frogs. If we find a frog, maybe that should be the condition on breaking out the Swedish frog song. But thank you for reminding me about that, Yvonne. It's been a while since I thought about it. Let us continue on in desperate search of perhaps a frog, perhaps even a leopard. Been a while since I've seen a leopard. I'm very keen to see one. While we continue on our way and test the signal in the different areas, why don't you jump back onto Brent's vehicle and find out what he has to tell you.
So I had a chat with the guys who work to the west of us outside of our traverse zone, and they had no luck finding the Nkuhumas. Did those ladies sort of sneak back across and are just lying in one of these little drainage lines? And for those who wonder what a drainage line, it's like the beginning of a little creek. So a dry creek bed would probably be the best description. So the last tracks I had of those lines this morning were probably 200 meters to the west of us here, and they were heading southwest. So we're going to go check along the edge of the Western Traverse. I did hear from Taxon that they crossed out, but that doesn't mean they haven't crossed back. So hopefully they are around. We'll also be keeping a sharp eye out for any wildflowers. And of course, birds and bugs and other animals. There we go, there's a track of an animal. Some hyena tracks. So you can see these are very different from lion tracks, which we will try have a look at shortly. You can see those very distinct claws popping off, and also very lopsided, very, very distinct tracks. And you can see how the paws don't sort of go in a straight line. They're sort of cockeyed. Whereas a cat track will generally be a lot more straight than that, so that the paws won't sit at an angle as much. So we have been, James Taylor's wondering, have I ever got any identity on some butterflies I sent off to university? I haven't, James. Thanks for reminding me. I'm actually going to have to resend those photographs. Hopefully we will get something back. I think I did send them on Boxing Day. So for us out here, whether it be weekend or a big public holiday or like Christmas or New Year's, it's still another work day when you're out in the bush. We tend to forget that sometimes, that the rest of the world isn't on the same schedule as us. They're very confused because we, of course, on the correct schedule, because just take a look at our office. Not too shabby at all. Kitty Bang Bang said she Googled symbiotic relationships in South Africa, and I'm guessing this was sparked by my... Oh, we'll come back to finish this discussion, but Jamie's got some great grey beasts to show you.
Look at this little fuzzy 200-pound plus bundle of joy. A very tiny little elephant that is hiding, very much hiding behind the trees. It's okay, little one, you can come out. We've got a really peaceful elephant sighting here. Now, unfortunately, they are in quite dense vegetation, so we'll stick with the view that we have for now. Obviously, I'm not going to try and go after or any closer to them. But we've got a very nice view of this particular, what looks like a young, is this a young bull or is it just a very big cow? I'm trying to see her. It's right into the sun, which is why I'm struggling a little bit to see properly. Looks as though it's quite a large female. It does look like a large female. Quite impressed with her size. Surprisingly, not always that easy to tell the difference between male and female elephants. Yes, when it's a full-grown male, very easy. But when it's a young male, it can be a bit more tricky. Elephants as a general, elephants, interestingly enough, that for the males, their testicles are internal. They are not able to keep them externally, so they're internal and up near their kidneys. So you've got to look for other signs that you're looking at a male versus a female. Just look at this little one. I know it's hard to see, but it's still covered in fuzz. So this is quite a young elephant, only a couple of months old. Are you going to come more into the open, little one? Here we go. Hello. I find baby elephants completely mesmerizing. And I think it's, for one of the reasons is the fact that they are so intelligent that you know that there's so much learning and thought going in that it's almost like watching a toddler, except on 4 legs and with a really long nose. And the same goes for the way that watching a toddler learning to walk or use its hands, it's the same thing watching a baby elephant with their trunks. They really haven't got that coordination of the adults down yet. Stretching up. Actually beautiful in this afternoon light, with the sun shining through the leaves. Totally at peace with the world. I'm gonna, since they've decided to move a little bit, I'm gonna try and shuffle backwards. See if we, oh no, hold on. Baby's coming back out into the open. Yes, Stephen. At some point, I think VM and myself will be having our picnic. Now that Wendy is up and at 'em, we'll be able to take an odd moment or two to have a couple of bites of our burgers. Now, I would have, of course, eaten my burger at lunch if I hadn't finished off half a giant sort of value pack of biscuits. That maybe was my first error. And I just couldn't bring myself to miss out on the hamburgers for lunch completely, which is why we've packed food to go. Hello, little one. And at this point, this baby, to me, looks under 6 months old. So any feeding that it's doing is pure imitation and learning rather than for nutrition. At the moment, it's going to be completely dependent on mom's milk. Let's go backwards because she is going to come out nicely into the open for us. And baby will come with her as she does so. So it's only really at about 6 months of age that baby elephants start to really properly feed on grass, but even then they're not fully weaned until much later. Mom is a beautiful older girl. Let's go. We'll stop here for now, since we've got such a lovely view of Mom. Well, how's your view actually there? Okay. If you have a look at the indentations around her forehead, you can see that they've started to cave inwards, and that's the sign of quite a mature elephant female, or a mature elephant in general. And I would guess that, looking at her size, looking at her height more than anything, as well as those concave dents, that she's at least 35 years old, probably a bit older. And of course, these elephants are very long-lived animals. They can live up to 60 years of age. So it's hard to tell exactly, but she isn't a young female by any means, with her hat full of vegetation. I must say there's nothing as peaceful as sitting with an elephant herd feeding on a Sunday afternoon. The couple of youngsters in this group, there's one a little bit older, probably about a year or so older. No, a bit more, 2 years older than the calf that we were looking at initially. He is flapping peacefully. Everything in their body language, and I know that our regular viewers are becoming very good at recognizing the different body language signs of an elephant. Everything in this body language of this herd tells us they are perfectly relaxed. As ears flapping is just a way of cooling themselves down. It's very common to encounter tourists that in the Kruger National Park that sometimes think that the animal's ears flapping means that they are aggressive or angry. And I've often met people who are saying, be careful of that elephant, they're angry in the Kruger Park. And then you look at the elephant and all it's doing is flapping its ears to cool down. It's always been something that bemuses me. So bear in mind that a flapping elephant ear, hello little one, could just mean that they're cooling themselves down. Oh, but you are so cute. Yes. You're going to be eating that for the rest of your life, little one. Hello. Ooh, very brave. Very brave behind the tree. And then you're going to realize that Mom is not all that close anymore. And then you're going to go scurrying back towards her. Yes, I see you there looking at me out of the corner of your eye. Are you going to come say hello? We're playing peekaboo. Oh, indecision time. Oh, I think I might be brave enough. Am I brave enough? Oh, I can do this. I can do this. I'm big and scary like Mom. Yes, yes, I'm brave enough. I'm not the most coordinated, but I'm big and scary. And there's a stick in my way, though. I might trip over it. I don't want to do that. I might lose face. Oh, I'm going to be even braver. Hello, little one. Whoopsie. Bravery wobble. Hello, little boy. You are very scary. I'm very scared. Oh. Now that was such a beautiful example of the way in which an elephant herd works. The young female, far too young to have a calf of her own. So this is either her younger brother or a younger male cousin. Yes, little one. Oh, you're so intimidating. Please don't come any closer. I'm scared. Terrified. Oh, back behind the trees. You know, they do this as entertainment. I actually think that we provide entertainment for baby elephants like this. They don't need to eat constantly. They've got mom's milk, so they've just got to hang out with mom and the rest of the herd, whilst it's almost like going grocery shopping, but all day. And they've got to find something to do. So, as I was saying, before I got distracted by the antics of that little male, that female, the young female, she's far too young to have a calf of her own, but she's already practicing the mothering skills that she's going to demonstrate in the future. And mom, the big female that is the mother of that baby, felt confident enough to leave her youngster. First of all, it's a privilege for us because she felt comfortable enough in our presence to leave her baby unattended. But also she felt enough confidence in the babysitter to leave the youngster to get on with its own entertainment for this afternoon, whilst watched by it's essentially a teenage babysitter. It's the equivalent of hiring a teenage girl or a teenager to come and babysit your kids. And Kathy, absolutely, Kathy was saying she was raised by an elephant herd. Now, as a little male, he won't have the protection of the herd for the rest of his life. But a little female of that age knows that for the rest of her life, she will be protected, she will be loved, and they do. I mean, they very clearly love each member of the herd. She will be loved, she will be with her mother for the rest of the life, she will then be with her daughters for the rest of her life. It is a very special unit, an elephant herd. There's something indescribable about those bonds. And for that little male, he's got at least the next 13 odd years of his life to spend in the protection, being loved and coddled by mom and by his aunts and sisters and cousins before. And if he's lucky, he might even have a couple of male cousins with whom he can play with and spar with. But after that, and you can imagine why it's such a wrench for young male elephants, it'll be time for him to go. Now, that little playful challenge, which is absolutely adorable to watch, is one of the most special things that you can witness with an elephant herd. He's wandered off now. He's realized that maybe mom's a little bit far and perhaps I should be there. But it isn't just... I said that they do it for making their day a little bit less boring. They don't just do it to us. So Gail in Calgary, Gail was wondering, do they ever do those playful challenges to other animals? And the answer is, Gail, little baby elephants will do it to birds. I've seen them chase cattle egrets around and around and around and around a field. I've seen them chase guinea fowl, francolin. I've seen them chase impala before. They tend to be a bit more careful when it comes to buffalo until they're older, but I've seen them do it to them as well once they're older. So no, that is not restricted to just us. And in a way, that is something that makes it even more special, because it's like we're treated as part of their environment. How absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, that pretty much, I think, is the end of our elephant sighting of this herd for now. They might be making their way towards the Djuma Dam at some point, we'll just keep you updated on that front. We might even get to see them a bit later on our safari. You never know. We'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, whilst I continue on, last time I said that, I went about 50 meters and bumped into this elephant herd. While we try to get to Buffelshoek Dam, let's find out what's happening on Arathusa. Oh, well, in that case, you'll come with me to Buffelshoek Dam. Unfortunately, it seems as though Brent's signal has disappeared. So for now, I thought Arathusa was quite a brave choice. For now, we will continue on together towards Buffelshoek Dam. And in fact, I didn't even realize, but there's a young elephant that's actually been standing on the other side of me the whole time. I did hear something. I figured there was another elephant there. Now, this could well be, I mean, I know this is not the most spectacular view that you've ever experienced in your life, but this could well be a young male, just like what we were talking about with... No, actually, it's a young female, my mistake. That's a surprise, I didn't expect that. Oh well. They were a bit further spread apart than I realized. I thought it might be a young male, and I was going to talk about how the young males get slowly pushed onto the fringes of the herd. Well, it seems as though, shall we try that again? Brent's signal has stabilized. Let's try and find out what's happening on Arathusa.
So we are tracking now. It is in this really and but
Welcome back to the back of Rusty. I hope you had an amazing time in Arathusa. As you can see, we have moved 5 meters, and we will continue to move in increments until it seems as though Brent's signal has stabilized once again. I thought about testing the signal on Nyala Road North, but I don't think I'll risk that. We'll take Hyena Road instead, and we'll keep an eye out either for, and I'm just tossing ideas out here into the universe, either for Gijima, that skittish male leopard that's been hanging out in that area, or even Mvula, whom I have not seen for a very long time, and I would be very much like to see. I don't feel as though I got to spend as much time with Mvula as I would have liked to. I arrived just at the point where he was starting to get pushed further and further east. I had 1 or 2 lovely sightings with him before he really did move quite far out of his usual territory and away from the advances of Tingana. Mvula, of course, being a male leopard, Tingana also being a male leopard. And Tingana just that little bit younger than Mvula. And actually, if I'm completely honest, a little bit bigger as well, which helps. And he really did play a large role in pushing Mvula out of his original territory. I'm not sure how well I've thought this through, though. Hyena Road, at the best of times, is something of a bumpy... Never mind, we're not going terribly far. Christy. Hello, girls. Have you been having a mud bath? Hmm? Is that nice? Hello, girlie. They've been spending some time splashing themselves in this pan. Awesome. I love it when we can't move because there's elephants everywhere. I mean that absolutely genuinely. Traffic jam like that doesn't get any better. Hello, big girl. Are you gonna come walk and say hello? You are gorgeous. This is the same herd that moved past us the other day, very close to the vehicle. The reason I know that is I know this female. She doesn't have the clearest identifying marks, but she does seem as though she's had a little bit of a prolapse in her life. You can't see it now. She's hidden right behind the tree. But she's always a kind of straggler at the back. Now I'm actually going to just let her wander through fairly quietly. There's another youngster who doesn't look as though he's had his turn, or she's had her turn, to have a mud bath yet. Told you, Sunday's a spa day. It's time to spend time in the mud. Now we saw that slightly older female a little while ago, and I chatted a bit about the life expectancy of an elephant. And Barbara Gooders, that's prompted Barbara to actually ask, is there an age at which essentially a female elephant will stop mating and stop producing offspring? Essentially an elephant menopause. And Barbara, I'd actually have to double check what the oldest record is for a female giving birth. Yes, there is an age restriction on it. And as far as I know, depending on the area you're in and depending on the elephant, as far as I know, it's around 45. But it could be a little bit younger than that in certain wilderness areas. It's amazing how much difference the type of environment and climate will make in something like that. It makes sense though, certain areas are more nutritious, so the elephant's body is capable of producing the nutrition it needs for longer. But as with all animals, they are restricted to the number, or all mammals, sorry, they are restricted to the number of ovums that they can produce in their life cycle. How's that grass, little one? Oh, wow. Beautiful butterfly. Well done, Viam. The name will come to me. My butterfly is not as strong as Brent's, but the name of this butterfly will come to me, I promise. I do know it. Isn't that a beautiful example of aposmetic colouring? The bright orange and the black together. It's not often we get to look at a butterfly on the screen. And Viam's managed to find you a really stunning one. Lovely. Ellie's are still with us. I'm going to double check on which type of butterfly that is. The name Acria is ringing a bell. I think Brent's actually got the butterfly book with him, but I'll have to check a little bit later. Possibly a Christmas tree Acria, but I will get back to you on that particular identity. I have to brush up. I have to confess, butterflies and wildflowers and fungi, apparently. The new fungus bits that have been popping up all over the place. Also not my strongest point in terms of the aspects of the bush that I know about. We all have our different areas of expertise. Brent has very much got the butterflies and the wildflowers down. Here we go. Have the open view of the young elephants. The littlest one in this group looks to be about, I would guess, at about 3 years old. Tusks just starting to come through. And that one's clearly had, the one on the right clearly had a bit of time spent in the mud. You can see some of it drying around him. In terms of identifying young males and young female elephants, since we've got this back view of him, there's the flap of skin between the back leg. Now in females, the penis sheath is, in males, the penis sheath is clearly visible between the back legs, whereas in females it is a totally different shape. And I'm giving you that lesson in the animal's anatomy because it is actually surprisingly difficult when you first look at elephants to tell the difference, especially with youngsters, between a male and a female. Really lovely sighting. Let's stop, since they are disappearing behind the trees. Let's just go to the pan and have a look at that and where they've been spraying mud around. And apparently Jason was watching one of our waterhole cams earlier, and he says that earlier today, which sort of answers Gracie's question about being able to share a swimming pool with the elephants, that apparently the elephants were chasing warthogs away from the waterhole. So they do like to come and chase things, Gracie. You saw that little baby chased us away, or tried to. Jason, yes, you are absolutely right. And there we go, an elephant swimming pool, especially for them, and one that they don't have to worry about sharing with people. And there's the go-away birds calling at the top there. Wee! Look at that. That's amazing. I think that might actually be a juvenile begging for food from the adults, believe it or not, even though it's already almost the same size. The one on the right is, from what I can see, being fed by the adult on the left. There we go again. Oh no. Definitely the one on the left that's initiating that, therefore that's the juvenile. Baby birds have an amazing way of begging. Earlier today, Brent and I think that we saw a juvenile black cuckoo begging from a much smaller host species. We couldn't see which particular poor bird had been lumped with raising this giant chick. Look at that. You're big enough and old enough now to be able to provide for yourself. Look how the one on the left is begging. Feed me more. No, you're definitely big enough to be providing for yourself. It's amazing how long after fledging and learning to fly, the parents of these passerine-type birds still provide for their youngsters. Still going. We've had a very similar situation in the camp that we live in with a red-billed hornbill and a juvenile that is almost the same size as its parents, and yet begs repeatedly and constantly from them for food. Obviously they haven't, although they've got the size and the coordination, they obviously haven't quite got the experience in terms of finding food. I always feel as though grey go-away birds are one of the most prehistoric looking in the way that they move. Awesome. Let's just quickly go down to the elephant swimming pool so that we can discuss Musical's question about differences between pans and ponds and dams and all those other words that we sometimes throw out without really explaining exactly what we mean. Musical, this is very much a pan. Now, a dam, in general, is much larger. Out here in the northern Sabi Sands, all of our dams are constructed by humans and would probably be comparable in a definition to a pond in terms of the way you would describe it. A pan is something different. A pan has come to be naturally, usually from a little puddle that develops in a seep line or in a depression in the ground, that a warthog or something similar goes and has a nice rub inside and sort of shifts the edges of the mud around. And then a buffalo comes and lies down in and makes it even bigger. And then the elephants come along and dig along the sides and make it even larger until you get to the point where you get these pans that are naturally occurring in the middle of the bush. So the Voyatella Dam, where this is where it gets a bit confusing, is the Voyatella Dam, where the dam camera is in front of the lodge. That's the larger section where there's a nice man-made construction dam wall. The The Voerteller pan is the pumped water hole in front of that, and it's just because of the size and the way in which it is constructed that it is considered to be a pan. But this is a more naturally occurring pan, and lots of the animals utilize them. Anything from hyenas to elephants to buffalo, lots of animals like to come and lie in them. And it gives them quite a distinctive odor. All of the pans out here smell like a combination of, to put this delicately, dung and animal. There's a grassy smell to it. It smells almost like a farm around these pans and water holes. And generally the elephants are fussy. They don't really like to come and drink here because the water's all muddy, and they don't really like mud up their trunks and in their water. But they do like to come and cool off along in the swimming pool. And they can be surprisingly deep. As we've seen recently, we've found hippos in very similar pans before. There's that one on Twin Dams that I think once is dry could probably submerge, I could submerge myself completely in it. So that's just the difference. And a pan will start unless this is dealt with at some point. It's one of the reasons why Hyena Road is one of the more tricky roads to drive along. A pan will start in a puddle just like the one right in front of us on the road. That's where a pan has its humble beginnings before animals come and wallow in it and just slowly push the walls further and further out. And we often throw these words around without really thinking about the way in which they translate. Very often we'll say something like drainage line. And that is probably the better way of describing or a better way of describing it might be a creek or a river system. Let's go over to Brent, who has some information on butterflies that you might find very handy.
So there we go. We are looking at the butterfly. We're just trying to get an ID for you. Pretty sure there's a couple. That looks like a brown vein white. And I heard Jamie's just been chatting about pans, ponds and dams. So we're at the edge of a pan, and that is an African vagrant Jean-Andre has found there. You can see how they're not actually drinking from the water itself, but rather from the edge, on the muddy edge. They'll be able to get enough moisture out of the soil there. So guys, I'm sorry if I disappear every now and then. I have to listen to the Game Drive channel because I have a surprise. But we will see what it is a little later. So here we go as a perfect example of a pan. This probably started very much like what's in front of us here. So you can see a slight depression right there, and warthog and elephant might have started opening it up and wallowing in it, and then bigger, 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 till elephants and buffalo and even hippos sometimes will completely open up this area. And now you can see this wonderful expanse of water, home to lots of different things. And we've got a foam nest froggy. So really incredible how those frogs have that protective casing that they lay their eggs in above the water, so the tadpoles can get a good start to life and a little bit protected from predators. And at nighttime, these little pans absolutely come alive with different frog species. And Jamie and I were actually doing quite a lot of research into frogs today, just for fun. Frogs are one of my favorite little critters. And I have now been fiddling with some new technology that has come up there. So you can see, as in with a lot of frogs, there's a lot of different color variations of the same species. So you can see there's a very golden version of the foam nest frog. I haven't seen one of those here. Normally, this is a very typical foam nest frog we get in this area. And hopefully we'll be able to find one of them a little bit later. So it's amazing. When I started, I used to carry a plethora of books with me. I think I had on average about 15 books. Now, I've managed to condense almost all of those 15 books into one little device. I think that's quite fancy, especially for someone like me who spent so much time in the bush. I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to technology. So before we go to that, Kathy is wondering whether that white ball there are frog eggs that we're showing you. So Kathy, it's not actually the eggs, but it's the egg casing. So the frogs will rub their back legs together while they're mating, and they'll create this protective casing. So it's very much like foam, hence the name foam nest frog. So as it dries, the outer side of that gets quite hard, but the inside stays moist. So the tadpoles actually hatch inside there and feed off their embryonic sac for a while. And once they're sort of big enough and have a better chance at survival, well, they burrow through that foam and drop into the pan. So I'm afraid this has got a little bit sickly since I picked it because we were having some gremlin issues. But definitely a flower I have showed you before. It is called a bird's brandy. The fruits are incredibly tasty. I like to eat them. But it is a lantana species. You can see the leaves look very much like mint, as Jean-André commented. And very, very sweet fruit. They're sort of purpley, and there's purple, white ones, very similar to the flower where there's purple and white. And very interesting. Now, the cousin of this, a lot of you will see it. It's an invasive plant that grows all over the world, especially in the warmer parts, called a Lantana camara. So this is a Lantana rugosa, and this is beautiful to eat, completely harmless. Now, its cousin, Lantana camara, is the complete opposite. It's native to Brazil and I think and Argentina and those areas. Now, that particular lantana is highly, highly noxious. It was brought across to southern Africa as an ornamental plant, and very, very pretty flowers, orange, purple, blue, green, and green flowers, all in a little ball. But if domestic livestock or even wild animals eat it, it is so poisonous they'll probably die within about 8 hours. And one of the scary things is, because we had a few cows on the farm my grandfather lived on that died from this, and you get quite worried because they show very similar symptoms to rabies, that foaming in the mouth and starting to run around like a crazy thing. But it's lantana poisoning. So while we're sitting here, we can hear quite a bit of other stuff around. I'm trying to see where those birds landed now. But we heard that very distinct that was flying over, and that was oxpeckers. And I'm sure what they were doing is while they were flying over, they were in search of a buffalo, and this is a good spot for a buffalo. Sorry, Jean-André found a butterfly. I wasn't paying attention. And on top of that, that butterfly is feeding off a flower. So it's a double whammy, butterflies and flowers. So again, it is the African vagrant, and it is feeding off a yellow justicia. I'm actually going to go find you the yellow justicia to have a look at a little bit closer. Such a beautiful little flower. And one of the villages on the edge of the Sabi Sands is actually named after it. It is the village of Justicia. There we go. Justicia. While we're here, we might as well just have a little peruse around to see what other fascinating things are out and about here. I love having a look at the edge, and you can see there's a large millipede. Off he went. Off he goes. So let's come back here to show you the Justicia. So I'm going to pop him on the dash. There he is. Very pretty little flower. Now we get about 4 or 5 different Justicia species. Can you see him, Jean-André? Yeah. In this area, that being the most common of all of the Justicias, the yellow Justicia. The next most common is the felt Justicia. Very common after the rains and very common on sodden ground. So where I picked it up from, I'll get Jean-André to show you once we have finished looking at this beautiful little yellow flower. Let me just turn it up. So you can see how different flowers have different strategies for being pollinated. Now, the little yellow Justicia is obviously far more interested in butterflies. So to get to the pollen, it's actually quite difficult, and you have to have a long proboscis, So proboscis is the mouth part of an insect, and that has to get right down. If we turn this sideways, you can actually see how deep, here we go, the flower is. So the proboscis has to get really, really deep in there. So it's specialized for certain types of insects to pollinate it, whereas this is a far more of a generalist. So you can see the pollen is actually relatively easy, but for much smaller insects. So this will be a specialist, or general specialist, for lack of a terrible description, sorry guys. So, but this will be for much smaller insects, and you quite often find little robber fly species and that will be on the lantana. So really, really fascinating stuff. When you start looking at the little stuff, you can actually, oh my goodness, Chandra is going to hate me. But climbing off the yellow, you seen him? Look at that. I'm gonna have to go put him back. That is a tiny little yellow, look at it, he goes straight onto the flower. A tiny little yellow crab spider, and now his life is probably completely solely based around these flowers. So he has evolved to match the flower. Now you can't even see him, he's just popped underneath there. And look at that. Incredible. I'm gonna have to go put him back. Sorry, I just need to be on the Game Drive radio first. Isn't that amazing? What's Chandra spotted now while I'm trying to listen to the game drives? What do you got, Chandra?
Butterflies.
Butterflies. Oh, well spotted. That one looks like a brown veined white. Hang on. I've just got to be on the radio quickly. I think I was next standing by. I'm going to be coming from the Bushman side. Okay, so I'm just going to put the spider back. We don't want to take him on an adventure. I'm sure he's probably distressed enough that I happened to choose the one flower that he was on. So let's put him back. Sorry, I just heard a go-away bird alarm call. Let's put him back on the justicias. I'm sure he'll be able to make his way to another flower. So it is amazing. I think I need to get a magnifying glass the next time we can actually look at it a bit closer. I think that maybe that's some old school tech that we could utilize out here on the live safaris with all our new school tech that we use every day. Be quite nice to go a little old school. So guys, as I move through this area, I might have a bit of signal breakup, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that you can stay with me while we're on our way towards the Marikeni drainage. So exciting stuff. It seems like we've beaten the gremlins off for now. Sorry guys, just listening. Standing by. Copy. So guys, it looks like you're still with me. I haven't heard any gremlins creeping in. It seems like there was a gremlin there for a second. Rushed off. Unfortunately, I think as we move further down here, we are going to have some of those issues till we're stationary again. Oh, there he is. A nice impala ram. It's always amazing if you just stop and listen what you can hear out here. And the impala is also doing the same, but he's doing it for different reasons. He's doing it to make sure he doesn't get eaten. So he's just making sure before he moves into that thicket that there's nothing there. So we'll do the same. So guys, I'm gonna have to leave you shortly. This game drive comms are quite difficult to understand and I really need to listen, so I'm not going to be able to concentrate on taking any questions for the next little bit. So I'm just going to let them get Jamie ready. Okay, so while we make our way towards the mystery animal, let's jump on board with Jamie.
Exciting times lie ahead. Not even I know what the special surprise is on Arethusa, but your timing is impeccable as we have just arrived at Buffels Hook. And let us investigate what happens to be there apart from the people having a bit of a rest stop, a leg stretch. I believe we have a visitor to Buffels Hook Dam. Let's go and have a quick look. Camera-shy visitor to Buffels Hook Dam. I wonder, could this be Bob, the bachelor, has returned to his normal spot? I don't know. I don't know which hippo this is. Either way, Buffels Hook no longer uninhabited. Remember how just a couple of weeks ago, Vim and myself were doing a bushwalk in this dam, and we were walking over this, exactly where this hippo is now, showing you all the places where an elephant had sunk into the mud, walking across the dried, crusted earth of a completely empty Buffels Hook Dam. And would you just look at it now? Amazing what a difference a bit of rain makes. Clearly not the fullest that Buffels Hook Dam has ever been. We can see clearly where the water line is along the banks. If we look, for example, just, here we go, perfect, thank you, Vim. You can see exactly where the normal water height is, that line in the dirt that runs along in the middle of that bank. That is where Buffels Hook is usually up to at this time of year, at the wettest time of the year. Nonetheless, this is definitely a positive moment. Hello, hippo, a bit shy. You can see in his body language, he's a little bit, not unsettled, but definitely uncertain. He wants to keep us up, keep an eye on us. Our hippo's safe place is water. That is where they like to be. We've spoken about this before. Very often where the water is deep enough, you can approach right up to the side of a water and view a hippo on foot. The drought situation has changed that almost completely. The hippos are definitely unsettled, including the hippos at Buffels Hook, but this is a very healthy looking hippo. There's no scratches on him. I think he's just found himself in somewhat unfamiliar territory. Now, towards the end of Buffels Hook, or not the end of Buffels Hook, but towards when it was getting dry, we started to see the catfish, or the larger species of catfish, writhing about. And that actually brings me to Gary's question about whether or not there were any large fish species. Gary, we saw the most enormous catfish, or barbel as they are colloquially known in South Africa. And I would say some of them easily reaching close to my height in terms of length. But the average that we were seeing towards the end was probably about this big. And really large and wide fish. So we do get some very, very big fish species. It's mainly the catfish in these dams, catfish or barbel. It's also tilapia, but those are at their largest, probably about that big, the different species of tilapia. And then you get all kinds of other fish species like killifish, which also inhabit these different areas. Now, the interesting thing about this dam now is that it probably does have catfish in it once again. And that is the amazing, incredibly resilient fact about catfish, is once water holes start to dry up, they can dig themselves into the mud and surround themselves with a mucus layer with air-breathing tubes that allow them to survive once the dam has dried up for up to about a year, until they need to resurface and feed again. Isn't that fascinating? They're also capable of walking over land, covering short distances. Look at this, blacksmith lapwing having a bath. A quick wash and a preen. Very common to see the blacksmith lapwings around the water's edge. Keeps them out of competition with the crowned lapwings that are also ground birds. And although they can fly, they spend the majority of their time on the ground. And they nest on the ground as well, which seems to me one of the most peculiar nesting strategy of any of the bird species. They nest in an area completely unprotected, right out in the open, nothing around it to indicate, and their eggs are so perfectly camouflaged that you would never know that they were there, which is perfect because it means that they won't be preyed upon or not easily spotted by an animal that might want to eat them. But an elephant or a giraffe or anything like that walking down towards the water has absolutely no idea that they are there. Watch this hornbill for a second. Running around looking for an afternoon snack. Also a bird with reinforced tail feathers, allowing them to balance like that and to run like that, serving a very different purpose to the oxpeckers that we were chatting about earlier. Jog, 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 jog. The most prehistoric looking. You can see the sun shining through his beak. They really are comical birds. They're difficult birds to actually take seriously. I'm going to keep my eye on him. I'll keep glancing back to see what he's up to, if he's doing anything entertaining. But for the moment, Gracie is thrilled that Bob is back in the dam and is hoping that maybe Princess Daisy will join him. Well, Gracie, I promise we'll keep you updated. We'll see if Gracie does decide to come and join Bob and relieve his lonely bachelor existence. Come on, Hornbill. Oh, they are on a very active hunt at the moment. Catching ants and termites and maybe even seeds. It's actually quite beautiful in this afternoon light. Hornbills, as I spoke about this morning, hornbills to me always have a slightly manic expression in their eyes. There's a lot going on there. He's stopped for now. So we'll go back to Bob the Bachelor and the answer to Lucy's question. Lucy's asked a very salient question because all of a sudden hippo turn up out of the blue in dams that have been recently filled. And Lucy was wondering, how do they know that there's water in the dam? Lucy, I think there's a possibility that they may be able to smell it, but most likely they discover it by accident on their nocturnal wanderings. So as we've spoken about before, the hippo move or cover enormous distances during the night, and that's even more pronounced, or it has been even more pronounced during this drought, because they've had to walk further and further afield in order to find an appropriate amount of grass to maintain their bulk. We still see you, boy. And that is, I think they just happen to come upon it by accident and then wander in as the day begins. Look at the way his ears and eyes are positioned on the top of his head. They are such amazingly structured animals. And they look so slow and cumbersome, and yet they are most definitely not. We've all experienced once or twice just how fast a hippo can really move when it wants to. They can cover the ground at 11 meters per second, 11 to 12 meters per second. To put that into perspective, close to 35 feet in 1 second. I bet there's some of you out there that think I might be exaggerating. I promise you, I'm absolutely not. And not only do they cover it at that great speed, but they also are much more agile than you expect them to be. If you see paths where hippos have gone out of the river, it's amazing the places that they can go, despite looking very large, almost fat and bulky with short little legs. The one thing they don't do at all, interestingly enough, is swim. Hippos are one of the few animals out here that absolutely cannot swim. He's currently standing on the bottom of the dam. And that gives you a really nice sense of scale of just how deep that dam really is. And that, of course, raises the question, will this water be enough to last us for the rest of the dry season until the next rains? Tim, in Arkansas, no, it's not. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to be overly negative. No, it won't last us until the next big rains. I think that at this point, having experienced a week or 10 days or so of fairly significant rain, definitely more than we've had the rest of the year combined, it's been incredibly positive. It's come just at the right time for the last sort of catching the last bit of plant growth as we enter the autumn equinox. But no, this dam is not going to last all the way through the dry season. I think it will. I mean, we could lay bets as to when it's going to dry up. I don't really want to do that, though. Somehow it doesn't sit all that well with me because it's a drought and because it has been such an unnaturally dry season. But I would, if I had to guess at, say that this is probably going to be dry, depending on how hot it remains for the rest of our autumn and into our winter. Probably be dry by maybe the end of May would be something that I might guess at. That seems to be a rough estimation. At least we know the temperatures are going to drop significantly over the next few months, and they are already. Yes, it was 30 degrees when we went out this morning, so it was this afternoon, so it was 86 odd degrees Fahrenheit when we first started. But there is a nip towards the afternoon. At least it's not staying right up there in the mid-30s, close to 40 degrees all day. It'll evaporate at a slower rate, but it's not going to be enough to last us. And unfortunately, what the meteorologists are actually suggesting is the possibility that although the rains will come, they will come only towards December, January, possibly even February of next year. So we'll have 1 or 2 downpours in October, November, but we'll still have to wait an extended period of time for the next rains. Now, I did want to go around to the other side of Buffelshoek Dam, but I think that I might actually disappear off your screens if I do that. It is only a short dip, and I want to go and investigate what we can find on the other side of the dam. On that subject, and since Brent is definitely still a little bit black screen, I'm going to go around Buffelshoek Dam, and we'll do things that way. We'll go around the other way, see if we have signal that way. I know for certain that I don't have signal in the drainage line. We won't go anywhere just yet. There we go. Bye-bye, Bob the Bachelor of Buffelshoek, or at least this male hippo that's in the dam. Good luck. I hope you find some company soon. Sorry, I'm going to stop here for 1 second. This starling has been chirping away the whole time that we've been sitting in the sighting, and every now I've been glancing back and just appreciating the colors on this particular bird and the way in which it's shining in the afternoon sun. You don't always stop for the blue-eared starlings, but in this particular light, you can see how spectacular they really are. And that knowledge sort of becomes even more impressive when you realize that that bird has flown away, but also that bird does not have one single color pigment on it. That is entirely a black bird. The colors that come from it are the keratin layers around the leaves that reflect and refract light in a way that creates that almost incandescent-like sheen. One of the facts that never fails to astound me whenever I see them. And if we ever find a starling feather to be able to show you, we can actually demonstrate that to you. that hippo's body language was very interesting. It's definitely not a hippo that was all that comfortable with our presence, which is another reason why I'm leaving. I don't think he'd charge us. I don't think he'd do anything serious to us. But I can see that he's feeling very, very unsettled. Not looking not really resting and relaxing in the way hippos usually do in the dam. Might be just because he feels he's not quite fully submerged, so he doesn't feel 100% safe. Dobby's asked another very salient question about the fish in the dams. We've spoken about the catfish, obviously, and the way in which they are able to be restocked in the dams. But what about the other fish, Dobby would like to know? Dobby, it's a really good question. As far as I know, there's a possibility that they are stocked, but I'll find out for you, Dobby, and I will let you know. I'm sure you're all very excited, or at least wondering what Brent is up to on Arethusa. So why don't you find out directly from him?
So guys, there's a tiny little owl in the tree here. A little spotted owlet. Is he still there? He's still there. He's gone. Tiny little pearl spotted owlet that was calling there. Oh, we can hear him calling again. No, he's still there. He's just gone higher, isn't he?
Oh, he flew down.
He flew down. You can hear them. There's a bunch of them there. I actually thought it was a fork-tailed drongo mimicking, but Jean-Ray disagreed, and he was spot on because he spotted the little owlet.
Liam just asked me if it was picnic time yet. No, Liam, it's not picnic time yet, unfortunately. Guys, we are going to make our way slowly towards where Brent is, just in case he doesn't have any signal. What that does mean, depending on the queue for this particular surprise, is that we might have to wait in line. We might have to go to the back of the queue because we're swapping out with Brent. But let's see how we go. Unfortunately, we're on the opposite side of the reserve, so I'll go relatively quickly. We've still got time to get there, but I will speed up my safari a little bit. And let's see if we can't make our way there. We'll see, though. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see if Brent has signal. Fingers crossed he does. Dobby, I was in the middle of answering your question, and I got slightly distracted about the way in which fish, the other species of fish, end up in that dam. Certain species of fish have very resilient eggs that will not hatch, or the young fish will not emerge until the conditions are right. So you might find that it works that way for certain of the fish species. It's only really that I can think of the catfish and the killifish that are capable of submerging themselves in mud like that. What a funny rattle again, coming from the back. Back door's coming loose. Do you want to shut it, or is it quite literally coming loose? Perfect. Cool. Just checking with Liam that he's not about to go flying off the back of the vehicle with the rest of the equipment. Seems as though it's all fine. And I might not be having my picnic, but I am going to have a quick drink of water. Now, this morning we had a long chat with a viewer called Kathy about the difference between centipedes and millipedes. And part of that discussion led us to the discussion of poison versus venom. And that's something that Ashley in North Carolina has asked us about. She was wondering about the difference between poisonous animals and venomous animals. Now, Ashley, a poison is, in this particular context, a poison is ingested. So, for example, millipedes are poisonous. If I ate them, I would probably die. Tamboti trees are poisonous. They've got that milky latex. Again, if I ate them, I would die. A scorpion or a snake, not all snakes, but certainly all scorpions, and a couple of the snakes are venomous, which means they inject that dangerous protein into you. It has to be injected either through a sting or through a bite. That is a venomous animal. Now, there is a difference. So you can be poisonous and venomous, or you could be just poisonous, or you could be just venomous. Not us personally, but the animals that we're talking about. Can be one or both of those things, although now that I think about it, I'm trying to think of an animal that is both venomous and poisonous. And I actually don't think I can think of one. I'm sure I'm being silly, there must be one. I guess there will be fish species, from something like a rockfish or a stonefish, that you probably can't eat. I'm thinking about it, there must be some kind of fish that is both poisonous and venomous. Can any of you guys think of anything that is both poisonous and venomous? I can't. Not out here, at least. So, yeah, snakes, scorpions, centipedes, my nemesis. Centipedes are my nemesis. They are venomous. And then something like a millipede or some of the tubers or a, what is that plant called? A poison apple is poisonous. Now, toxic to me, personally, from a vocabulary point of view, toxic to me means the same thing as poisonous. I definitely wouldn't describe a snake as toxic. I'm going to stop here for 1 second. There's a bird that's calling, and I just want to get a sense of just how far into Torchwood, our eastern property, neighboring property it is. Oh, it would stop calling as I stopped. It's a red-crested korhaan. Promise you it was calling. Oh well. Promise you, there was definitely a bird calling that is not that hornbill that's screeching behind us. There was definitely a red-crested korhaan calling. We have a question coming through from the lovely ladies in Final Control, and in fact our director for this afternoon, Louise. Now, Louise has raised a very good question. She said, why are certain snakes equipped with such incredibly potent venom when their prey is generally something so small? Why do they need to be equipped with venom that is capable of, for example, killing a human being, or easily, for that matter, a wildebeest, or quite possibly even, if the possibility is maybe even an elephant in that respect? Maybe an aardvark like the one that James found. And that's a really, really good question. And I'm going to come up with a possible number of theories. The first is that it then acts as an intimidation factor as well as a hunting technique. So, for example, a lot of people are terrified of snakes, and therefore they stay away from them and don't harass them. I'm not sure how that works that well in practice, though, because a lot of people are terrified of snakes out here and therefore kill them, which is definitely not the result that we want. What was the other theory that I was thinking about? The other thing is that different animals react differently to venom. So, for example, and it's the same way that different animals react to different tranquilizing drugs. Now, it's something I learned about when I was chatting to one of the vets that we regularly worked with back at my job before this. We talk about the way in which M99, which is the tranquilizer used for the larger pachyderms, buffalo, elephants, rhino, anything like that. Now, that stuff is absolutely absolutely lethal to people. I know a couple of people who've been pricked by those darts accidentally once the dart has gone in, and there's almost immediately an instantaneous panic around them in order to get them to hospital as quickly as possible, because even a drop like that can be fatal to a human being. But, for example, an Inyala, for some bizarre reason, needs almost, not quite, just over half of a dose an elephant needs, which if you compare its body weight, an Inyala of 60 odd, let's maybe say for a male, 100 odd kilograms, 200 plus pounds, compared to a 5-ton elephant or a 10,000 pound elephant, animals react to different proteins differently. It's why certain animals are able to eat plants or eat insects that are toxic to other species. The civet, for example, is quite capable of chomping down on a millipede, but it would kill us. So that is a possible suggestion that I have to offer as to why their venom seems so powerful in some of those snakes. Maybe it's because certain species don't react as strongly as we do to them. That being said, I'm not sure how accurate that is, because we know that when a black mamba bites a rodent, that rodent is dead almost immediately. Maybe it's because they're targeting different types of prey that they need to incapacitate really quickly. I'm always fascinated by boomslangs. A boomslang's venom is one of the slowest acting. Drop for drop, a boomslang is the most venomous snake out here. Its venom is the most potent, even compared to that of a black mamba. But you've got about 48 hours in which to act. And it's hemotoxic, it's not neurotoxic. Why do certain snakes have... Most active hunters are neurotoxic snakes. So black mambas, cobras, snakes that seek out their food and need to incapacitate them quickly because their prey might run away. Now, ambush snakes, like a puff adder, with very potent cytotoxic venom, they will bite their prey and then let it scurry off if they aren't managed to hold on to it, and then slowly track it down by a combination mainly of scent and the scent particles that they pick up on their tongue. And then you've got the complete opposite approach, which is grab it and hold on and constrict it. Pythons, mole snakes. Snakes with fixed fangs and or fixed teeth and no fangs. The answer to Louise's question is I honestly don't know. I'm throwing some theories out there. Snake venom at the end of the day is just protein, no matter what type it is, whether it's hemotoxic, neurotoxic, or cytotoxic. It is just protein that ultimately will be broken down by the body, which is why for us, as soon as you get bitten by a snake, you're rushed off to hospital. If it's the absolute worst case scenario and it's a black mamba, as soon as you're on artificial breathing, your body will act to break down. And that's why doctors are moving further and further away from, or trying to avoid as much as possible, using the antivenom that has been in favor over the last few decades, because it is actually more dangerous at times than the venom itself. It's extracted from horses, and you end up going into anaphylactic shock as a result. Most people react very, very badly to it. Just an interesting discussion about the different types of snake venom. Cobras are mostly neurotoxic, but spitting cobras are mostly cytotoxic with a bit of neurotoxin thrown into it. And there we go, an answer to our question about what animal might be considered both both poisonous and venomous. Jeffrey suggested a blowfish. Thank you, Jeffrey. That sounds to me like it absolutely might be the case. My marine biology doesn't allow me to say that it absolutely is, but I think you're right, Jeffrey. That sounds right to me. Just listening to the squirrel. But I think it was just a squirrel chatting to another squirrel. Thank you very much, Louis the Lion. Louis the Lion has said that it's okay if we have a picnic and leave you guys to listen to nature whilst we munch away on our hamburgers. Louis the Lion has said that he can hear Viam's stomach rumbling from here. Are you hungry, Viam? I'm looking at them now. I'm looking at them and just thinking, they just look so delectable. Can you smell them, Liam? So beautifully wrapped in tin foil. And there you go, Liam. That one might be yours. It may or may not be yours. One of them's got tomato, an actual tomato on it. I don't know how you feel about actual tomato. And one of them's got a bit of cheese on. One's got cheese and actual tomato. Going the healthy route for our lunch. Whilst I really do appreciate the go-ahead for our picnic, I think perhaps we better get across to Arathusa before it gets too dark and find out exactly what the surprise is that Brent has been planning, particularly if he doesn't have signal. I'm not sure exactly whereabouts on Arathusa he is at the moment. Just bearing in mind, of course, that only one of us can go on Arathusa at any one time. At the moment, we're still fairly far away. We're on Cheetah Cut Line. We're not going slowly, but it's still going to take us at least another 15 minutes to get across to the Arathusa side. And once I'm there, I'll be able to find out exactly where the sighting is. That's why I'm also not stopping too often. That and the fact that there's not much in the way of mammal life out here, although there's always something to be found if you look closely enough. But I'm not stopping for now. We're going to go relatively quickly. I've thought of another snake. So I thought about a the berg adder. Most adders are cytotoxic. A berg adder's got neurotoxic venom thrown in there as well. Maybe because it hunts on or ambushes on rock crevices, so it's not as easy to go looking for its prey afterwards. Bethany's come up with another possible solution. She's asked, how long does it take a snake to replenish their venom? And at what point does it get to the... Maybe that's because their venom is so toxic because it takes them quite a while to replenish. And the answer is from what I understand, venom is quite, the production of venom is actually quite an energy-intensive operation for the snake, which is why you very often, particularly with adult full-grown snakes, you get what are known as dry bites. Now, Bethany, I can't give you an exact amount or an exact number of days, hours, minutes for a snake, and I imagine it's different between each snake. I also imagine that they will replenish almost constantly. So if they have bitten something, they'll start replenishing a stock that isn't completely empty. So they probably never run completely dry. But I think that it is quite an energy-intensive process because you get, as I said, you get things known as dry bites, which is where somebody's bitten by a snake, but it turns out that the snake hasn't actually injected any venom into them because they don't want to waste them. So it is more of a threat and a warning than anything else. And that is far more common in snakes that are older and more mature than it is in baby snakes. Very often baby snakes don't have complete control over their venom glands, so they tend to, when they bite, they tend to inject more venom than an adult snake, which is why baby black mambas, baby cobras are definitely not to be taken sort of lightly just because they look tiny. They are equally, if not more so, dangerous than the adults. According to Gary and Jenny, the tiger needleback snake is both toxic or both poisonous and venomous at the same time. Thank you for that. There's all kinds of species that outside of Africa I don't know anything about. Now, it's nice to know, or it's interesting to know, that there are different species that are both of those things. I'm just going to slow down here a little bit. Karula was denning here. She isn't anymore. But I'm going to go slower nevertheless, just in case. This is the stormwater drain that she was resting in. She had her cubs in the drain to the right of us. Sorry, yes. She was in here. And see why this morning I discussed it and said it was quite an interesting decision on her part. She obviously has her reasons. I'm not sure what they were. She has since moved further south away from here.
Lion
Pardon? Lion tracks?
there, yeah.
Going that way? Oh, okay, this is exactly where they found them this afternoon. Well spotted, Viam. Viam spotting lion tracks for us. This is the lions, I think, that they found this morning on Chitwa. The Styx females are also further to the west of us, closer to Arathusa. I'm just going to go through this dip. It should be absolutely fine, but I'm going to be silent as we go through it. More lion tracks. Hold on 1 second. Final control, you might want to stay very quiet for now because you're about to come through over the entire broadcast. My water bottle just unplugged your closed communications. So everybody stand by. Have a look at these Impala whilst I replug final control in, unless they'd like to share all of the questions that are coming through with all of the viewers. Hi guys. Hi. Cheers guys. Oh. Goodness gracious. This is a bit tricky. Hold on, everybody. There we go. Sorted. Okay. Phew. Hugged back in. Let the other vehicle go past. In fact, that all timed itself perfectly. Wolf-kissed chick, just to finish off our oh. Grunting away. The rut is starting. We're getting there. Slowly but surely. Those hormones building up in the males, causing them to make that very strange grunting sound that male just made. Alrighty. Continue onwards. I think that since Brent has built up the surprise of this particular sighting, I do think that we should try and make our way across in that direction. See if we can't keep it a surprise as well. And as soon as Brent comes through onto Djuma, then I'll be able to contact him on the Game Drive channel and find out exactly where I need to go. In the meantime, Wolf-kissed chick was wondering about snakes and our discussion about venom. How do snakes produce it? It's quite a complex. So the way in which the different venoms work, they're proteins. Now proteins work by having a very specific shape that is locked in place. Now you're stretching my memory of my biology lessons now in the ways in which those covalent bonds are strengthened within the venom itself. Just trying to remember. As I said, they are proteins, so there's plenty of nitrates that go into that production, and it's produced in the cells of the venom glands themselves. So there's a special venom gland that then has a venom duct that leads through into the fangs, and those cells are the ones that produce it with a combination of, try and remember exactly how it works. I think it's produced within the Golgi body of the cells. If we want to go really deep into the biology of cell anatomy. But essentially they create the proteins, the very special structure, the code for which is programmed into their DNA, which is then transmitted on little slivers of RNA. So the parts of DNA that then translate into our phenotype, so the way in which the physical or practical appearance of whatever gene code is there is transmitted by the mRNA. They go out into the cell, and the different, I mean, I'm really going into complex detail here, but I don't know how else to explain it. I'm sure there's an easier way. So the mRNA has little shapes on it known as the bases. The different bases correspond to different things. So loose bases within the cell, whether they be thymine, adenine, guanine, cytosine, they will attach to that mRNA in a special order, and they will carry little molecules that will then combine into the snake's protein venoms, which will then be released into the venom gland itself. So a little bit of a complex definition, one that might be easier to explain with diagrams that unfortunately I definitely don't have in my book box. There's something in the road. There's a zebra in the road, that's what it is. I got quite excited there for a moment. I thought it might be VM's lions, but as zebra is nevertheless equally exciting since we haven't seen them in quite a while. Squirrel making a noise. I'm going to stick, VM's picked up on a squirrel alarm calling. I'm going to get a bit closer to the zebra and then stop and listen. Hello, little one, in the middle of the road. Beautiful young foal. Wandering up over the termite mound. There's not much more picturesque than a zebra in this very pretty afternoon light. I'll reposition slightly so that we don't have... Oh, that's okay. We're okay with that. I know my antenna's a bit in shot. Beautiful. A crisscross of stripes in the African sunset. Looks like both females. In fact, the female on the right looks like that heavily pregnant one we've been seeing around quarantine. I don't know for certain that it's her, but you can see the difference between the female on the left and the female on the right in terms of where their bellies are sitting. And you can just, it's very obvious that this female zebra is going to be having her foal relatively soon. That looks distinctly uncomfortable. I'm not sure if that's my imagination, but I can almost see movement there. James, of course, had that incredible opportunity to witness a live zebra foal birth, which I think must be one of the most incredible experiences. Taking a moment to enjoy the scene in front of us. Good luck, girl, with your very pregnant belly. Now, if I didn't see that she were pregnant, I would know it was a female by looking at the stripe between, she's turned slightly in the wrong direction, but the stripe underneath the tail, it's a zebra crossing, haha. Actually, I'm not sure that joke translates all that well. I'm not sure if a zebra crossing is a solely South African term for a pedestrian crossing. Is it? Is zebra crossing something that is used outside of South Africa, or have I fallen into the trap of using a South Africanism that actually doesn't apply anywhere else in the world? a bit nervous now. I'm not entirely sure. I've never thought about that before. Now, of course, as soon as we see zebra, we think of them as stripy ponies. And I know that we often refer to them as stripy horses or stripy ponies. And Steve was wondering, on that note, has anyone ever successfully crossed a horse with a zebra? And Steve, the answer is no. They are such separately distinct species that unlike the horse and donkey, they cannot interbreed and produce offspring. They're very, very separate from each other. For the longest time, there was a belief that the quagga, the now extinct quagga, Q-A-G-G-A, for those of you a bit confused by what I'm saying, quagga. A quagga looked like a half zebra, half horse. And people for the longest time believed that that was the case, that this was some species that had come to be from a combination of horse breeding with a zebra. Hello, Zebby. And what it's turned out recently with recent research into the genetics of quaggas is that they were a variant of the zebra that we're looking at now. It is a subspecies of a plain zebra that became geographically isolated. And we do occasionally see our plain zebra with a serious lack of stripes. This gentleman has bold, thick black stripes, and it's hard to imagine that he might ever lack them. But the quagga, in fact, comes from a type of plain zebra that actually sort of became geographically isolated and bred from there until it became a distinct subspecies. Fascinatingly enough, it's something that scientists are actually trying to bring back in the future. It's a very selective breeding program in the Cape to try and return the quagga to its natural numbers. They've got to the point where they've managed to breed out the stripes on the back half of the animal. They haven't quite got the brown color yet. It's an interesting project. We were responsible for their extinction. It'd be interesting to know if it's our job to then bring them back and where the line should be drawn in that respect. None of it's done through genetic modification. It's done purely through artificial selection and breeding purposes, just in the same way we've shaped the different breeds of dogs over tens of thousands of years. And in a wonderful update for you all is that Brent has managed to relocate some signal once again. Let's find out what he has to tell you. Or not. Still with the zebra. Liam and I didn't move, to be completely honest. We weren't entirely confident that we were going to be off air for much longer than we were. So we stayed with the zebra for now. I'm just going to try and get hold of Brent on the Game Drive channel. I just want to find out if he's back on Juma. Brent. Oh, he's obviously not back on Juma just yet, which does mean that I can't go on to Arathusa until
Jamie,
he's off.
come in for yours.
Go ahead, yours.
Jamie, good afternoon. What's happening in Vujas?
Afternoon, yours. Shlomi and Lov on Vulture's Nest, slowly mobile south. I've left them now. There's also a couple of stragglers on Hyena Road. Other than that, no updates from our side.
Thanks, Jamie. Same at Bubbles Hook. There's nothing going on at the moment.
No problem. I think that's right. I think the animals have gone on a long weekend.
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful. In this afternoon light. Just having a quick update for one of the landowners who wanted to know if I could tell him if there were any leopards or lions on Vuyatela. Yay, I'm very glad that the term zebra crossing is universal and not a South Africanism. I just had that horrible moment because I've been caught out before with saying something, and of course our most famous one is calling traffic lights robots. In South Africa, you stop at a robot. When the robot is red, you stop, and when the robot is green, you go. Nowhere else in the world calls them robots, and you get met with some very blank stares if you talk about robots. People starting to think that South Africa might be a bit more technologically advanced than it actually is. I'm going to carry on towards Arethusa. Bye-bye, zebra. Thank you. Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry, Pinky Swear. I think I've confused you completely here. Pinky Swear, when I was talking about the stripe between the cheeks of the zebra bottom, I got completely distracted and didn't finish what I was talking about. It's not that I can tell if it says that the zebra is pregnant. It's the fact that I can tell if it is male or female, which isn't always terribly easy with zebra. So if it is a thin stripe, as it is with this particular individual, then it is a male. If it is a fat black stripe between the cheeks of the bottom, then it is a female. And it is surprisingly difficult. The pregnancy is just by looking at how big the stomach was. That was the only way that I could tell that she was pregnant. But it's not always immediately apparent whether you are looking at a male or a female zebra. Sorry, Pinky Swear, I definitely didn't explain that terribly well. And dare we try? It seems as though Brent has an amazing view of the sunset and some signal. Let's try and combine both and have a look from his vehicle.
So hopefully we don't disappear. I am not moving. I am completely stationary, and we have a splendid view of the sun, or the sunset. The sun has disappeared behind the Drakensberg Mountains, and it's just throwing some light through that large storm. Isn't that absolutely exquisite? So I'm very scared to move, but we will try. We have tried to get some high ground. And so we just have one last look at this beautiful, beautiful sunset. And as we come wide, you'll see the sun's still throwing some light above that storm, and there's almost a wisp on those cirrus clouds up there. Sorry, stratus clouds. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. So there's quite a lot of big storms around us. You can see some over there, and really, really all around us. So maybe we will get some more rain during the night. And of course, one of the wonderful things you get to see out in the African bush, and it's going to be even more clear after all this rain we've had, because there's no dust interfering with the view. And we can try have a look. Oh, my hand's not long enough. You see that Jean-Andre is playing with me? There we go. Jean-Andre thought that he was very clever there. And there's a moon, not quite full moon yet, but you can see how clear it is. So very little dust in the atmosphere around us due to the rain. So we are going to attempt the impossible. We're going to move forward. And hopefully we don't disappear. And hopefully there are some wild beasties around. So we did have another look for those Nkahuma lions. Are just off the backs. But hopefully, fingers crossed, them and Tikana decide to come sit on quarantine, because there doesn't seem to be any. But I did promise to try and find you a nice lion track, and I know where one is. So, and apologies for the bit of breakup we're experiencing. Hopefully it gets better as we move closer towards camp. I don't know if I should drive faster or slower to stop the signal breakup, although we'll try faster.
Hi. Just swallowing a quick snatched mouthful on my way back towards Arethusa. Just take a quick sip of water. How's that hamburger treating you, VM?
Very nice.
VM's having a great time. It seems as though every time I sit in a vehicle, it automatically somehow has better signal than the other one. Not to say that it has brilliant signal. I don't think it has anything to do with me. It just seems to be the way things have been working. How's it? How are you?
Good.
Hi, guys. Cheers. Have a good afternoon. He was already driving away, so I'll ask for an update as soon as Brent is going to emerge. Let's just see if he's back on Juma yet. Brent. Doesn't seem that way. Haven't heard from him. In that case, we're not going to go straight towards Arethusa. We'll take him.
ahead.
Oh, no, there he is. What's your position?
With
Copy. Where was the sighting on Arethusa?
it was at Old Borehole Crossing. Best access is you just come from Red Dam. We'll actually go on the western side to head down to the Marikeni. It's the first crossing in the Marikeni that you drive through if you're driving down the drainage from the east.
Okay, copy that, thanks. Any idea what the standbys are like? And then I'll switch on to Western comms.
I think it might have calmed down by now. I think you might be able to grab a first standby for a second.
Copy that, thank you. Hey, things looking up, everybody. We should be making our way towards that sighting shortly. It is quite far on Arethusa, so it'll take us still a little bit longer to get there.
There's an update from the western section to Tingana in the Marikeni, probably about a kilometre and a half to the west of Triple M, around Sibamili, Arethusa. And then actually Kauma is also going to a block near there and then come out. But Tingana's general direction should be moving back towards west tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot, Brent.
Donna, watching in Jackson, California, has not forgotten what I was hoping everybody would forget. Apparently today is International Frog Day. And she was saying that perhaps a frog song would be suitable. So I suppose on our way towards the sighting, Donna, I haven't had a chance to brush up on my lyrics though. And the fact that they're in Swedish makes it even more difficult. I spent a long time with the volunteer, or the two volunteers in question, learning the different pronunciation, and they were reveling. Now, I personally think that Swedish, to me, is one of the most beautiful languages in the world. And I also really, really love the Swedish accent when speaking English. To me, it's so lyrical. It's such a flowing language. Oh, they spent ages trying to teach me Swedish pronunciation and saying sounds like ooh and things that were completely beyond my comprehension. Donna, once we get on our way, if I have an opportunity to refresh my mind, I will be able to double check and see if I can. I mean, I remember them vaguely, but I could hash this up completely, and I would feel quite terrible if I did that, because there was a time when I could do it. And it was the most wonderful experience that we had. Can't sing it in English. You definitely can't sing it in English. It has to be in Swedish. It doesn't make any sense in English. It does, but it doesn't really rhyme. It's not a song that translates. Oh no, Yvonne's also going to hold me to this promise. All right, give me a second. Once we get off the main road, which will hopefully be soon, I'd prefer not to be on it whilst performing the frog song, then I'll be able to double check exactly the Swedish lyrics, and I will get back to you on the frog song. We had the most amazing experience with that. The place where I used to work, we used to do a big Christmas party for a local orphanage in the area. So we'd get about 50 kids of different ages, from newborns to teenagers, and they would come and join us. We'd take them on game drives, and we had a big lunch all prepared. And right at the end, they would stop and sing us little traditional songs. All of them standing together in these rows singing for us. It was the sweetest thing imaginable. And it was all very seriously done. They took the whole thing very seriously. They wanted to sing for us, and they wanted to say thank you. And we had these two Swedish volunteers, Niklaus, and I can't remember his nephew's name for the life of me. It was about 3 years ago, though. And they then sang the frog song to a group of 50 or so odd orphans in the middle of our garden. And we had kids from the local township all jumping up and down, singing kuakaka, kuakaka. It was the cutest thing I think I've ever experienced. And that's why that song sticks so vividly in my mind. And can you believe it? Dare we risk it? I'm not even going to try another bite of my hamburger, but Brent does have signal and he's en route to the hyena den. So while I try and get myself into the sighting, why don't you head back over to his side?
Am I here? Am I here? I think I'm here, but hopefully I'm driving very slowly now. Maybe that's the trick. And we've just arrived at the hyena den, and it looks like there is some activity. So, yay! And we have signal. Hello, little one. Here we go. And look at that, the ear's still flicking away. After this rain, those flies must be incredibly annoying. There we go, and there's the answer. I will eat you, fly. Stop biting me. Oh, there we go. So after that rain, there would have been a complete explosion of different insects, including the nasty biting flies. As you can see, hyenas, these little hyenas are doing their best to try and bring down their numbers. But I have a feeling the flies might be a little bit too fast. Incoming, Jean-Ray, running up to the others. Oh, there you go. Mom just decided she's off. And barely see her now. She walked off at quite a rate with her head up and ears out. But the little guys are still here, and they just make up another adult lying on the other side. What have you got? A stick or something smelly? I think it's just a stick. And of course, mom's away, the children are at play. Oh, that's quite aggressive. That's a bit of dominance behavior. And with hyenas, it's shown from a very, very young age. So you saw that little neck shake. And if it does get a little bit violent, you often find that the younger ones will beetle down the hole and try to get into a little crevice where the bigger ones aren't able. And I think that little talking to was for taking his stick or her stick. Truly fascinating things that happen here. There we go. Again, a bit of dominance being shown there. Oh, but fighting back. You might find that these two might possibly be similar ranked, but of different ages. And now that that adult's moved away, the slightly older one is trying to assert a bit of dominance. So they're not really showing any proper submission. A little bit there. Well, the one on the right is showing a bit more submission of the two small ones than the one on the left. Not really, though. Fascinating stuff. So as soon as that adult moved away, the dynamic at the den has changed. And you can see, now that that adult that was lying quite close by has moved off, all of them have actually moved their games right to the entrance of the den. We won't see as much wandering about when there are no adults. I'm not saying there aren't any. There could be one lying up on the other side. But isn't this beautiful? And this is always one of my favorite times to come to hyena dens. And you've regularly got good activity. There you go. I'll scratch your ear for you. So you notice, here we go. Every little stick or branch that's in hyena cub height around a den has been munched on. Now, when you look at these cuties, it's hard to believe that they have such negative connotations in both African and Western culture. Now, yeah, look at that. The spotted hyena, more so than the other two hyena species, specifically because of their habits of eating quite rotting carcasses and feeding off refuse from people. And when people have died in the past out in Africa, hyenas sometimes have taken the blame where people might have died of disease, but the hyenas have been found eating the remains of the people, and they've also got a lot of attachment to black magic. They're said to be witches' pets, and our African witches don't ride broomsticks like European and American witches. Our witches out here ride hyenas. So they don't fly, they cover across the bush on hyenas. But the really, really fascinating thing is, I think, because most African cultures would never have really watched hyenas at a den historically, they would have only found them out in the field scavenging. There's only two tribes that I know of in Africa who actually hold hyenas in high regard. And I told you about a while ago when I was at the den about that spotted hyenas actually used to occur all the way through Europe till quite recently. And there's a mammoth ivory carving from France in one of those massive rock caves there that is probably between 12 or 17,000 years ago. And it is getting a bit dark, so we are going to move away from these little guys. But I went and found a picture of it because it is quite incredible. Here we go. So that is about a spotted hyena carving from the south of France that's about 12 to 17,000 years old. Isn't that incredible? So they even played a part in European, or the developing European cultures, and never held in high esteem as lions and things like that, probably because they don't pose a direct threat to people. Only when you're sleeping or injured or sick. If we were walking through the bush, a hyena's just going to run away from you, even at night. But where there's a lion at night, we'll try to feed on you. But there's also incredible cave paintings of spotted hyenas that are estimated to be over 30,000 years old in the south of France. So absolutely amazing stuff. Oh, hello. We're going to have one last look. One of the slightly older ones has just arrived. Probably about 8-9 months old, that one. It is getting very dark, and you know we don't hang around with the babies when it's dark, and we don't put lights on them. So we're going to move, and hopefully as we move back, we don't lose any signal. I'm hoping that we've now got to a semi-safe zone. Go. We've made it this far. Okay, so the wonderful thing is that you never know what else might pop out while we're here. So we're going to go have a look down towards Gallagher Camp and see what's out and about. There are some wonderful spots for bush babies around there, so maybe we'll get lucky. And if we get no luck there, I think I'm definitely going to make my way towards some of the pans around at the moment and see if we can find some frogs. So you might get lucky enough to see me lose my shoes and go splash around. Hi, Rebecca, who's from Santa Barbara in sunny Cali. Rebecca said she's coming to Botswana and South Africa in a month. Will she still see butterflies? Most definitely. Probably not quite as many species as we see. Out in Africa, we do have butterfly species that stay out for the whole year. So almost 100% between the two places, you will see the brown-veined white. You should see some of the pansies, some of the grass yellows, and definitely some of the little blues if you're looking for them. So I know Jean-Ray would be quite excited to see me playing in the mud. So we're going to go have a look. I think there might be quite a nice little pan on this road. And I'm hoping to find some frogs we haven't seen as of yet. We might have heard some of them. I think my favorite that we're going to be looking for, and they are quite difficult sometimes to find, is the snoring puddle frog and the dwarf puddle frog. Now, the dwarf puddle frog is not much bigger than my thumbnail. The snoring puddle frog is fortunately quite a bit very cool little frogs, and I'm hoping a little bit thing as it gets a little bit darker, they're going to start calling. So different areas, you're going to find different frogs. Of course, there's going to be crossover between the same two places. But now, this, for example, off to the right here, is a sort of what we would call a flay. It's a little swampy area at the head of little drainage lines, and this is an excellent area during the rain for frogs. And as it gets darker, you'll find certain species that will come out onto this as well. So on the subject of frogs, Ellen in North Dakota is wondering how long does a foam nest frog's eggs stay inside the foam? Now, if I had to give you an answer off the cuff, I'd be lying, so I will double check it for you now when we stop. But if I had to hazard a guess, and if this is a guess, I will get the correct information shortly, I would say no more than probably a week or so, because a lot of those nests are in very shallow pans that can dry up quickly. So you probably find there's quite a quick turnaround on those foam nests. And it wouldn't even surprise me if it's shorter than a week. Did I miss my... No, there it is. Ooh. I saw movement in the water there. Well, we've got a really wonderful question from Katie, who's 11 years old. You can hear a frog as well. Now, the thing about frogs is a lot of them are ventriloquists. Oh, there's a crab. There's a little crab swimming around under the water there. You got him. There he is. You can see how he's feeding off the detritus. So, Katie, let me just answer your question quickly while we watch this crab scuttle about before we go in search of frogs. So, Katie would like to know, or says she watches SafariLIVE whenever she can, and she'd like to know where she can write to us. Katie, you can write to us on the email address questions@wildearth.tv. Oh, look at it go. There we go. So we can hear that wonderful high-pitched sound while we watch this crab scuttle. And that is a frog, and I'm just trying to rack my brain. It's been so long since I've heard nice frogs. Oh, where did he go, Jean-André?
Is there? You're on it? Just down?
Oh, there he is. He's right there.
He's under that algae.
Under the algae. So let's just do a quick perusal of the edge here, see if we can find any frogs sitting out in the open. So as I said, oh, there's a fishing spider. There we go. So now, if you're a frog, or a baby frog to be precise, a tadpole, this is one of the creatures you've got to be aware of. They'll actually dive down and grab small stuff from under the water to eat, and tadpoles are one of their favorites. And some of the really big species have even been known to grab fish. Very cool little guy. So let's now keep our check. I'm saving the best to last. See if we can spot that frog. So what else have we got here? See, he's calmed down a bit. He's starting to do the calling. Now, this is the thing, as I said, a lot of frogs are excellent ventriloquists. So the sounds sound like it's coming from around there, but he could be anywhere, even way back up there. Now, the reason frogs do this quite often is to avoid predators, because if you make a lot of noise, you obviously draw some attention to yourself. So that's why quite a lot of frog species are very good ventriloquists. I'm still trying to rack my brain for which frog that was. And okay, I think it's time. I'm going to turn this onto our little pan here. I'm going to go see if I can cause a hop, and that maybe we can get an ID on him. I will try ID his call shortly. I'm just trying to rack my brain a little bit to see what it is. So I'm guessing it's one of the stream frogs, just from the sound of its call. Okay, let's go from this side first. So he was calling around here. Just have a quick, careful look. You can hear a bunch of other frogs starting to call behind. Should have brought my torch. I'm going to see if he hops into the water. I'm gonna do a very frog-like movement, which could cause you much joy if I do not do it correctly. I'm going to hop across this little gully. Oh, nearly hit my head. Oh, there we go. Now, I would have said that if he's not a ventriloquist frog, it would have been right in around here. Jandre, you let me know if you see a bloop. But I think he is. I actually think that frog's probably sitting a little bit further back from where we are. Calling. And, oh, this is quite thorny here. I'm going to go back across. Oh, that's not a good stable jumping platform. So, we can't find any frogs with this one. We have heard one. I'm going to try to figure out what it is. But we're going to move along to the next little pan, see if we get some luck there. Okay. Well, we try find some amphibians. Let's go have a look what Jamie's up to.
I have some rather sad news, and I'm afraid to say we just missed your surprise. Your surprise was Tingana, and he was on the western edge of Arathusa, and he just walked across as we came onto Arathusa itself. So he moved out of our traverse area, the place that we're allowed to drive. Next time, everybody, he seems to be moving, or he will. There's a good chance that he will be moving back towards in our direction at some point in the next 2 or so days. So we'll definitely have hope for a male leopard sighting at some point. Unfortunately, I just didn't quite get there in time. I didn't realize how close he was to the boundary, and off he popped. That's just one of those things. Animals do what they will, they'll go where they want, and it's up to us to fit in with them. So next time. It also seems as though the Nkuhumas were somewhere on Arathusa as well. Nobody found them, but I know that Brent had tracks going in somewhere close to around the western boundary. So they definitely wandered through there, either very early this morning or late last night. And that's just a little bit of an update from my side. I hear you've been seeing all kinds of antics from Brent, who is jumping about in pans, from what I understand, and leaping about, and probably will come back considerably muddier than when he left or set out this afternoon. We have to find a frog first before I think I can be coerced into this song. It is actually a very catchy little tune, though. Donna was saying it's the International Frog Day on the 30th of April. Not today, as I originally thought. I was a bit confused, Donna, because I hadn't heard anything about it. Okay, so it's the International Frog Day on the 30th. Okie dokie. But Donna would still like to hear the song anyway. Donna, I feel as though that was a sneaky ploy to hear the song. All right, I will sing the song, And you'll have to please all of the Swedish audience, or in fact anyone with any kind of vague understanding of Sweden. I completely apologize if I mangle your words totally. Essentially, this little froggy song, and for those of you who've only just jumped on the safari now, we were talking about the equinox, the spring equinox, and the fact that it's our autumn equinox, and I was chatting to one of our Swedish viewers, Yvonne from Sweden, and we were chatting about, Yvonne says it doesn't matter if I get it wrong. Yvonne mentioned this, and we got to chatting about the Swedish frog song. So we'll go along with it. It's all very catchy, and you all have to join in at the end because the lyrics are very easy at the end. It goes something like this. Små grodorna, elaste ta. Små grodorna, elaste ta. Åren. Says something svansa, forgotten the rest of the words. Åren, something. That means I've got no tail. And then wait for it, everybody all together. Kuakaka, 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 kuakaka. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my version of the Swedish frog song. That's the bit that sticks in my mind all the time. There is a dance. No, I will not be doing the dance. We're not even going there. I'm not doing the dance. And that essentially translates, I can't dance, it's dark. It's dark and a lion might eat me or something, I don't know, but I can't dance. I'll fall over. Essentially that means little frog, wait, let me remind myself, something about it being very strange. It's got no ears, it's got no tail, and it goes kuakaka, kuakaka, kuakaka. That's pretty self-explanatory. That's sort of what frogs do. Here we go. There you go, Gracie. Gracie, you wanted me to please sing. Well, I have sung for you. I don't think, Gracie, that I got all of the words right, because it's not a language that I speak fluently, but it is one that I absolutely love to listen to.
Now it's stuck in my head.
And now it's stuck in Liam's head. All together now. Kuakaka, kuakaka, kuakaka. I think I've lost my mind a little bit. Shall we show you an animal quickly? It's not a frog, unfortunately, although that would have been hugely appropriate. There we go. A little scrub hare. Munching on one of two things. One option, no, he's definitely munching on grass, sorry. The reason I said one of two things, he is definitely eating a blade of grass there. Now, scrub hares, unlike ruminants that chew their food once again, they swallow it into their first stomach and then bring it back up into their mouths, scrub hares do something very different. They actually practice what is known as coprophagy. So they eat their dung. Once they've digested the food and excreted it, they eat it again, which is what gives scrub hare dung droppings, there we go, not dungings, droppings, that very pale colour. It's one of the ways of giving the bacteria some time to start breaking down the plant material before they re-ingest it. Strange little approach, but it's not uncommon with animals out here. A lot of the baby mammals, zebra in particular, spring to mind, and elephants do it as well, practice coprophagy of their mother's dung in order to get some of the antibodies and bacteria that they need within their gut to help them digest. Might sound gross to us, but as human beings, we're a little bit too squeamish when it comes to such things, and rather unnecessarily so. Yes, certainly I wouldn't be eating my own dung, but we definitely can't judge the animals for it. Right, well, you've got a song out of me, which is very unusual. I don't really generally sing in front of anyone. I sometimes sing in the car when I'm on my own, driving long distance, but that's about as far as it goes. However, I wonder how Brent's frog search for an actual frog went. Let's find out.
So the frog hunt continues, and we're stopping. Oh, it's dried up since. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a frog here. Just check very carefully. So some of the frogs don't actually need that much water. They like to just chill out in the moisture. But unfortunately, nothing there. So let's head down towards Djuma Pan. Once we get the gremlins sorted, we'll do some proper frogging around Pangolin track and that big Chele Pan there. So Jennifer's wondering, do the fishing spiders go down and then under the water and then come back on their silk? Not as far as I know, Jennifer. There is a spider that does that, and I'm trying to remember its name now, but it doesn't occur in Africa, it occurs in South America. And this whole spider lives in one of the carnivorous plants. Oh, Scops Owlet, maybe. And lives his whole life in one of those carnivorous plants, and he attaches a braid of silk, and then there we go, it's called a diving spider, and he dives down into that liquid. He actually even takes a little ball of oxygen around his mouth so he can stay down for longer. And what he does is he puts that ball around his mouth, and he goes down on his silk, and he grabs whatever insect has fallen into the flower, the carnivorous flower, and then once he's got that, he goes up, and he's got a free meal. But that frog's whole lifespan is, that spider's whole lifespan is completely associated with that plant. Very similar, but even more specialized than that little yellow crab spider we saw today. So I'm just going to take a shortcut past final control to the Djuma waterhole. Patty Cook is wondering, are the red river crabs that we get here in the bush edible? I'm sure they are. Actually, they are. They don't taste very nice. I have tried to eat them. They taste very much just like and only like mud. So not a very nice tasting crab, that one. But I have tried to eat them before in my younger days. Oh, sorry, Inyalas. Let's turn that off so you're not there. We're not looking for Inyala, we're looking for frogs. We're right next to the Djuma Pan, but that's not a good spot for frogs. That's actually a decidedly terrible spot for frogs. So we're going to just meander a little bit past it. You might have seen a frog. Oh, that is not there. Is that a stone or is that a toad? You're looking on the wood? You got it. Has Jean-Andre found us a frog? I'll be so excited. No.
Negative.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this. Actually, no, that's a bad idea. There we go. Genre is right on cue there. There we go. There's a bit more light. So we're chatting about foam nest frogs. I think I actually might even see one. I'm just going to have a quick look over there. So we would... Ooh, I better take my ears off. So we're chatting about foam nest frogs. So now you can see a foam nest frog that is still holding by the looks of things. So there you go. This one, completely intact, still holding tadpoles. And these two that have completely broken off. So the tadpoles are already out of this. So let's grab some of it. It's still quite moist on the inside.
just going to see where we can get a... I'm just going to put some light on this, some nice light on it. Pop it there. I'm going to put the spotlight on it now. We can have a look at it. How's that, Chandra? Yeah. So, I mean, look at that. I mean, it's really soft. So you can see that's the outside layer now that is already broken. You can see the little holes, like in that spot there, where the tadpoles have come through. Let's have a look on the inside. There might be some eggs that didn't hatch. That does happen. But now, even though it is a little bit moist, it's completely dry. I mean, Chandra, have a feel at how soft and fluffy that is. Got it? There we go. Absolutely incredible. So you can start. It's got a very. So compared to this, if I try to, it's got almost a harder, more durable. So if I tried to say, let's picket it, that's better. So if I picket it like this, you can see it actually takes a bit of pulling to come. Inside it, there's a better piece. This is from right on the inside. You see how soft and fluffy it is and how it almost just breaks up as I grab it. So of course that harder area to protect, and then the soft fluffy bit inside. It's obviously dried out because all the eggs are out, all the little tadpoles are out of it already. But there we go, a nice closer look at a foam nest. So there's still another foam nest still with, or much.
We're just listening very carefully. We apologize for losing Brent once again. Just listening really, really carefully. We thought we heard impala alarm calls, so I'm going to take my earpiece out for a moment, since I am slightly deafer in my left ear than I am in my right. And just listen. All has gone quiet. Might be impala. Over the sound of the engine, it might actually be the impala rutting, making those deep grunting sounds, rather than... excuse me, their alarm calls. Sorry, excuse me. Dust up my nose. They have all gone quiet now. Alrighty, so Kathy in Tennessee would like to know a little bit more about the bird calls at night. She was saying sometimes you guys can't always, or not all of you can hear them that well, or that clearly, when we stop and we talk about them. So Kathy, let me try and stop for you. We've got a really nice view of the moon. So we'll try and stop. We'll see if there's any birds calling. Try and get a bit of light on a tree or something similar. Yeah, we'll go and we'll look at the moon. And we'll listen to the bird calls, and we'll see if we can hear anything out of the ordinary that I can explain and maybe even whistle to you. I'm just pulling in here, so I'm off the road. Let's stop the car here. Right, Kathy, the first thing I can hear, and I'm going to whisper really quietly so that we can pick up the ambient sounds. Can you hear that? Might be a little bit too faint for you guys to hear. It's the sound of a Scops owl calling. And that's the very gentle call. It's calling up towards Yuri's garden, so it might be better for us to go and cross in that direction and see if we can't hear it from there. And Kathy, as soon as I hear any of the other birds calling, I'll stop and we can listen out for them. Because at the moment, Quarantine Clearings is quite quiet in that respect, surprisingly enough. I'm not hearing any nightjars or pearl-spotted owlets. in these parts for a while, apart from Liam on the back. Liam's nickname, by the way, Wildebeest, comes from filming the first live wildebeest birth. Raisa has said to me that they have the same version, or they have the same song in Finland that, oh, Raisa, I'm very sorry, I've already completely forgotten what it's called. I have been challenged to do the Finnish version. I barely managed the Swedish version, and that was with people helping me many years ago. I'm not sure how I do in terms of the Finnish version. We'll stop once again and see if I can't hear that Scops owl. Beautiful view of the moon, which is almost full. Degree angle that the Earth sits at, which ultimately provides us with winter and summer seasons. So the way of life that we understand now. And from there, at the 23-degree tilt, the scientists are saying if the moon had not stopped where it is and was not exerting a force of gravity on the moon, on the Earth, in the same way the Earth is exerting on the moon, the Earth would actually have spun wildly out of control in the way that it moves. Sorry, a bug just flew down onto my microphone. But the Earth would be wildly spinning as it orbits the Earth, rather than the smooth spin and controlled rotation that we have at this perfect angle. Then, of course, you've got its control of the tides and the way in which it impacts the movements of bodies of water. We don't realize just how important that moon really is. Is a truly incredible aspect of our life out here, and one that maybe we take for granted without really realizing just how essential it really is. At the end of our sunset safari, I really hope that you have enjoyed it. We didn't get to see Tingana today, but tomorrow is a new day and we'll bring all kinds of new surprises along with it. Can't have our way every day, all the time. I hope you have enjoyed it. Big thank you to Viam for his support and company, as well as enjoying his brief picnic with me before we were back presenting once again. And a big thank you to all of you, the viewers, for joining us and sending through your questions and your comments. Never mind, I'm saying goodbye to you all. And I can see Brent, but he was going to say goodbye, but he's not going to. So I will cancel my goodbye, which I think has been par for the course over the last few days, and we will continue looking at the moon. And actually the planet. Let's go look at the planet. Give us something else to look at. There is Jupiter, the one planet that's currently visible at the moment. And I'm going to say goodbye to you once again, because it seems as though Brent does have signal. We'll keep fingers crossed. I'll just stay here in case that doesn't stay like that. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you for the sunrise safari tomorrow.
Sorry, I do apologize, guys. It's been as frustrating for you as it has for us, for Chandra and myself. As you can see, there's Jamie right there, and she's got signal, and we had to stop the car to get signal, and we're no more than 50 meters from her, but I do guarantee our tech geniuses are on it, and sometimes maybe there's a funny, as Brian would say, alien in the sky that's causing these, and hopefully we can find him and zap him shortly. But it has been wonderful. Unfortunately, we did find Tingana. I'm very sad we couldn't show him to you guys, but hopefully his general direction from where he is he's going to be moving on to Djuma, and staying on quarantine would be the best for everyone tomorrow. And also, there's a very good chance those Nkuhuma ladies are going to be back tomorrow as well. So don't miss the sunrise safari. Lots and lots to be seen, and hopefully we'll have stable signal by then. So I'm going to try look around to see if there's anything about.
quickly. Just going to wait for Jean-Andre, and then we're going to pan together. And you can see what we see when we're looking in the spotlight. So what